Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Now, in today's video, I'm going to be going over the top 1% when it comes to reality creation. Now, when it comes to success, when it comes to creating reality, right, manifesting the reality that you wish to partake in, the reality that you wish to exist in, there comes a time when there are the one percenters, right? The one percenters who are, embodying their universal energy. They're embodying their creative abilities and the creative energies, the creative universal energies that flow within them, right? So you have the 1% who are able to create the reality, who have the belief and the faith to create the reality that they wish to exist in. Now you have the other 99% of the world who are, just going with the flow of life, participating in this matrix, not being conscious or not being aware of their hidden capabilities and their hidden powers, and knowing and believing that they have the power and the ability to co-create their own reality, right? Because every single one of us can be a part of that 1%, but outside sources, external people, governments, elites, they don't want us to know about our hidden capabilities and our powers when it comes to manifesting the life that we desire, right? So in this video, I'm going to be going over the top 1% and how you can be a part of that top 1% when it comes to reality creation. So let's not waste any time. Let's go ahead and get started. So, first things first, within the world, right, 99% of the population, 99% of the world's population operates from taking action, right, which equates to having, which equates to being. Now, I've talked about these concepts and these equations in previous videos, but this video I'm going to get into the nitty gritty, and I'm going to be breaking down what it means to being in that state of being and co-creating the reality that you wish to exist in, right? So 99% of the population takes action, right? They take a certain amount of action, right? They grind their butt off, they grind their ass off to get whatever they desire. That which equates to having, right? Having whatever they are striving to achieve or to obtain or to grasp, and that equates to being, right? So let's use money for example, right? They take a certain amount of action within their 9-to-5 job, okay? Then they end up having a certain amount of money, accumulating a certain amount of money that they've been grinding for, that they've been taking action for over a certain amount of years, okay? And that equates to being, their whatever their definition of success is, acquiring a certain amount of money, getting that pension, accumulating enough money in their 401k, many other different things. It doesn't necessarily have to be about money, okay? But with the 99% of the population, what most don't understand or most are not aware of is that when they operate from this equation, they are participating in the rat race, right? So what is the rat race? The rat race is basically, survival, working your 9-to-5 job, working 8, 10, 12 hours a day just to pay your bills, just to, put some food on the table. All of us are participating in this, the majority of us within this world is participating in this rat race of life. And most of us are not even aware of it. Okay, so most people who operate from this equation are participating in the rat race, participating in the matrix, participating in the system that was created for our detriment, right? This system wasn't created for our benefit. It was made for our detriment, because the people that create this system, the elites who create this system only benefits them since they're the ones who create it. It doesn't benefit us. Okay? So, the other side, within the world, the top 1% of the population operate from a state of being, right? Being that successful person, that successful business person, that successful entrepreneur, that successful artist, right? You are already embodying that belief. You are already embodying that persona, that person that you are striving for. All right, most people say, they want to become this or they want to be that someday, or they want to accomplish this said goal someday. But once we start to embody that, once we say that that's what we already are. That's what we already achieved, right? It's already within us, right? Your internal reality is a reflection of your external reality. So once you embody that internally, it has no choice but to manifest on the outside. It has no choice but to manifest within your external reality. Okay? So that equates to taking action, right? So we have to be realistic at the same time. It's not going to work out if we don't take a certain amount of action, if we don't take any action at all. Most people, believe that, they sit in their lotus position, or they're, sitting at home and, daydreaming and believing that all this stuff is going to come to them without taking a certain amount of action. That's why we have these physical bodies, right? We are spirits having a human experience, but we utilize these physical bodies to maneuver through this third dimension, to maneuver through this third dimensional plane, through this physical existence. That's why we exist in these bodies. And these bodies are used as tools to get where we need to go from point A to point B, right? And that equates to having a certain amount of money, having that good physique, right? Having that healthy relationship with your family or your spouse, kids, that house, that car that you're trying to manifest in your life, whatever the case may be. When we embody that internally, right? Once we raise our frequency, raise our vibration, and consciously having that consciousness, that energetic frequency within our own mind, within our own conscious, and focus on that, right? Encapsulate that into our subconscious with affirmations, with visualization, whatever tools you need to utilize to be in that state of being, taking that certain amount of action, and that equates to having what you desire. Okay? So this is why the top 1% are so successful at what they do, right? There are people such as, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Mark Zuckerberg, all these different individuals who are, considered at the top 1%, who own these major corporations and businesses. They operate from this equation, right? They're able to alchemize their energy and put it towards something that they want, right? They're in touch with the quantum field, right? Everything starts in the mind and then it manifests into physical reality, right? So they know all about this esoteric knowledge. They know about this occult knowledge. They know how to manifest things from their mind, right? Steve Jobs, another example. These individuals know the details and the importance of using their spiritual force, utilizing the universal forces, utilizing the quantum field to manifest and to bring forth into reality what they want, right? And that is our God-given birthright. All of us have this capability, right? Sometimes it may come quicker with others. Others may have, a higher chance, or it may come quicker to other people. But we all have this capability. We all harness this power, right? But it takes persistence. It takes patience. It takes courage, right? Because we live in this third dimensional realm, and our manifestations might take a little bit longer. It might take some time, right? There's a time delay, but there's a time delay within this world, within this physical reality, within this physical realm, right? So things, take time. It always takes time. We have to realize this, guys. Things take time. It's all about the journey, not the destination, right? So I'm going to be breaking down right? What it means to internalize what you want or what you want to create within your reality, and then putting forth the action to create that said reality, right? To achieve what you want to create within your reality, and then having what you desire within your own reality. So let's break it down. All right, so let's break this thing down. So let's start off with the being, our internal state of being, right? Being is recognizing and using the spiritual power of the infinite, right? The infinite source, the creator, the universe, it exists within us, right? We are think of yourself as a mini universe, right? We are the microcosm of the macrocosm, right? We are God in physical form. We are God in physical manifestation, right? So once we have a better relationship and better in tune with our spirit, with our soul, right? We are able to utilize that inner guidance, right? Intuition is all inner guidance. When we utilize that inner guidance, when we utilize that inner force within our being to maneuver through this third dimension, we're able to make certain decisions. We're able to make certain, sacrifices. Right? We have developed that faith. We have developed that faith to make certain decisions in our lives, whether it be quitting our 9 to 5 job, or moving to a certain area or a certain region within the world. Right? We're able to have that discernment. We're able to have that intuitive ability when we have a better relationship with our spirit to manifest whatever we want in our reality. Okay? So the state of being also represents the spirit, right? The spirit is the controlling agent of existence, right? So our spirit, our soul has the ultimate power to, co-create our own reality, right? The spirit ultimately has the ultimate power within us, right? This is the ultimate power that exists within us all. This is the ultimate power that exists within our being, within our life, right? So we have to understand this. So when we just operate from from the physical aspect of ourselves, from our physical body, it 9 times out of 10, whatever you're trying to accomplish, whatever you're trying to strive for, it's not going to work out in your favor, right? You can't utilize an illusion within an illusion, right? The human body is an illusion, right? The outside world, our external reality, is an illusion, and you can't utilize an illusion within an illusion, right? Like the Hindu, within the Hindu concept, within the Hindu tradition, it's called Maya, and Maya is an illusion. Maya means illusion, right? This is a hologram. This is a holographic matrix that we exist in. Everything that we see, everything that we encounter, everything that we experience within your external reality is an illusion. It's not real. It's fake, right? This is a created world. This is a created world that we exist in that doesn't benefit us in any way, shape, or form. So when we utilize our internal being, our internal state, we're able to become a glitch in the matrix. We're able to become different. We're able to shift the paradigm. We're able to, shift the culture, or whatever the case may be, right? Because your internal reality is more real than the external world that we exist in, right? We have to remember, we have to memorize this, guys, right? I'm gonna say it again. Your internal reality is way more real, is way more legitimate than the external world that you exist in, right? So express your internal reality, express your internal being. Don't be afraid to express yourself, right? We might be, most of us are afraid of judgment, afraid of criticism, afraid of people talking about us in a certain way. Express yourself, express your internal reality, right? So the intangible represents the real power of the universe. It is the seed of the tangible, right? Think of a tree, right? It starts off as a seed, right? The spirit is the seed is the representation of the spirit. It is a representation of the soul, right? And once that spirit grows, once that soul grows, right, it starts to branch out into the different branches, into the leaves, the like on a flower, the petals, right? It starts off as a little seed, right? Then it branches out, it grows, right? That's a representation of our soul, of our spirit, right? When we, understand that our internal reality is more real than our external reality, once we get into that state of being, right, being, entrenched in our internal reality, right, already embodying what we want to become, already embodying what we want to achieve, right, it starts to grow more and more and more and more, right? And it all happens within the unseen. We can't see the unseen with our physical eyes, right? But like I said, it's all about faith, having that strong faith. Faith is the ultimate power. Faith is the ultimate destination when it comes to creating your reality, right? It's a prerequisite when it comes to creating your own reality. It's faith, right? So we have to have that strong faith that we can achieve whatever we want to achieve, right? And that spirit, that universal energy that exists within us all, is able to push us forward, is able to push us to accomplish whatever we want to accomplish. Okay? So a state of being equals strong emotion, right? Faith, ambition, confidence, determination, and vision combined, right? So the spirit, you can't really describe the spirit, you can't really describe the soul with human terms, with human words. The soul is undescribable. We can't even fathom, what the soul is, right? It's the soul is beyond our comprehension. We don't even know exactly where our soul is even, located exactly. People say that, our higher selves or our spirits are, exist in a higher realm. It exists within, our consciousness. It exists within our heart. We don't know exactly where our spirit or our soul is located. The spirit, the soul is way beyond our comprehension. It's way beyond our human minds, right? So the soul is the emotion, the ambition, the confidence, the vision, all these things combined. It's everything combined, right? As above, so below, as within, so without, as the soul, so the universe. The soul is a representation of the universe. We are many universes living on this planet, right? So it's the soul is all of these combined, right? That's how powerful and strong our internal reality is. Okay? So, by simply being, we are no longer in a rush to see reality change. We are in the moment. We are in the moment, right? We are in the present moment. It's all about being in the present moment, right? When we focus on, whatever we want to accomplish, whatever we want to achieve, whatever we want to manifest in our reality, it creates a barrier between you and that thing that you want to accomplish, that thing that you want to acquire, that thing you want to manifest within your reality. It creates a barrier between the both of you, right? So you have to it's all about balance, right? When it comes to visualization, when it comes to affirmations, it's all about balance. You don't want to be, so caught up in whatever you want to accomplish, whatever you want to be, whatever you want to achieve, right? It's all about, having that balance between being in the moment and at the same time trying to acquire and trying to take action on what you want to achieve. So it's all about balance. It's all about balance at the end of the day. So always strive to be in the present moment, right? Meditation, calming the mind, calming the body is a great way for you to be in the present moment. Get into that theta wave state. So when it comes to action, knowing is not enough. Okay, knowing is not enough. We must apply ourselves. Like I said at the beginning, our physical bodies, this is what our physical bodies are for. our physical bodies are used as tools within this third dimension, right? Our souls have, are encapsulated in these physical bodies. Our souls are, you know, exist within these physical bodies in order for it to exist within this third dimensional realm. And we utilize these bodies to, fulfill our purpose, right? To take action when it comes to, when it comes to certain things. All right, that's why we need to take care of our body. Having a balanced diet. Taking care of ourselves, exercising. Because energy is required for the third dimension. Energy is needed for the third dimension. Energy is needed for us to manifest whatever we want in our reality, right? So knowing is not enough. Knowing what you want to achieve, knowing what you want to become, right, is not enough. We have to take action. Action is necessary. Okay? Action is the high road to self-confidence and self-esteem, right? So the soul is the boost, right? It boosts us off to perform certain actions. And once we, perform these actions, we start to have that self-confidence. We start to have that healthy self-esteem, right? We start to have that motivation, that confidence, that vision, right? We see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? So the action, when we take that action, it gives us that certain confidence level, and it gives us that certain healthy self-esteem for us to keep going, right? And not focusing on the accomplishments, just being in the present moment and staying ahead, being in that flow state. When action is taking place, all energies flow towards it, right? So wherever attention goes, energy flows, right? Whatever you put your mind to, whatever you put your thought energy, your mental thoughts, and your mind, and your consciousness, that's where your energy goes to, right? If your mind is towards something destructive, if your mind is towards something that's detriment to your health, detriment to your life, right? That's where your energy is headed, and that's where you're going to end up. That's what you're going to be entrenched in, right? So we always have to remember that where energy goes, energy flows. Wherever our mind is, that's where our energy goes. That's where our attention goes. So pay close attention to that, right? Be mindful of what you put your energy towards. Be mindful of what you put your mind towards, right? So focus on the doing instead of the accomplishments, right? Like I said, being in the present moment. Stop, dreading to see your life change. You hear most people say, oh, I can't wait to hit the lottery, or I need to win $1 million so my life can change. I need to do this. I need to do that. This needs to happen in my life. People are just, in a rush, instant gratification. People are so into the instant gratification nowadays because most of us, we have gotten so lazy to the point, life just becomes easy with social media and Uber Eats and, all this technology, right? But at the same time, we have to be, like I said, in the present moment, being in the present moment, focusing on the vision, right? Because, like I said, in this third dimension, there's a time delay, right? Everything, it's always a time delay with everything. So it's important for us to have that faith and to stay focused and to stay poised and to always remember that the universe is always on your side, and you will get that accomplishment. You will achieve what you want to achieve in the time being. Okay, so just have that faith and that confidence. It'll come eventually. We just have to have that faith and that confidence and that patience. Right? So there's action mentally and physically. Right? So once you have a relationship between the mental plane, the physical plane, and the spiritual plane, all three planes of existence, then everything else will take care of itself, right? So there's mental energy and there's physical energy. When the mental energy and the physical energy are combined, when they're in unison, when they're in harmony, oh man, you just like I said, you in that flow state, right? You in that flow state. You are in that flow state of mind. Nothing in this world can stop you. Nothing in this world can, hinder you in any way. You are just in go mode. You are on your mission. You are on your purpose, right? You are motivated within the spirit. The spirit motivates you. God motivates you, right? You do your best, and you don't let anything within this external world dictate your outcomes, dictate your life, right? Because this world is fake. This external world is fake. It's an illusion. So you don't take anything seriously. You don't let anything outside of yourself hinder you in any way when it comes to your purpose. Right. So having what you want to achieve, acquiring what you want to achieve within your reality. Okay. The combination of the being and doing is the driving force in materializing your desired reality. So like I said, having that combination of being, that internal state of being with the doing, the being with the doing is the ultimate driving force to accomplishing what you want to materialize within your reality. Okay, so by using his or her universal energy in business, it can be in business or in life, his or her progress in the future will be unparalleled, right? So if you don't know what your purpose is, it is your talent plus helping people, and that equates to your purpose, right? So if you're struggling to figure out what your purpose is and what you were meant to do on this planet, figure out what your talent is or what your talents are, right? What are you good at? What are you gifted at? What do you enjoy doing, right? Most people, they are, especially when they work a 9-to-5 job, they're miserable, right? Some people enjoy their 9-to-5. Some people enjoy, working a regular job. That's their passion, right? It's all about finding your passion and finding your purpose and whatever you like to do. But most people, they work jobs that don't satisfy them. They don't enjoy working, within the confinements of their 9-to-5. They're miserable. You go to your job and you hear people say that they're ready to leave, right? They're dreading the time. They're always saying, what time is it? Or is it time to go? People are just miserable, right? Sometimes I'd be going through, drive-throughs at certain restaurants and stuff like that. And people just look miserable and upset. People, they just lost in the matrix. They're in this rat race, and they're not consciously aware of that, right? We're living in survival mode. This system was created for us to be in survival. We're just in constant survival mode, and everybody is miserable, and everybody is upset, just waiting to go home and leave their job and things of that nature, and they just repeat this cycle over and over and over again. Right? So if you're a person who doesn't want to work a 9-to-5, who wants to step into their purpose, creating that business, whatever the case may be, find out what your talents are. Find out what you are good at, right? And how can this talent benefit humanity? How can this raise the overall consciousness level, or raise the overall energy of humanity? How can your talents, how can your purpose benefit humanity, right? So those two equate to your purpose. Okay, so it could be real estate. You might be into real estate. You might be into stocks and bonds. You might be into you might want to become a life coach. You might want to become a YouTuber, right? It could be anything. Just focus on what you are good at, what your talents are. How can these things help humanity? How can these things help people? And that leads to your purpose. That is your purpose. Okay? So, when we use our universal energy, when we use our universal light to, manifest what we want in our lives, our manifestations become unparalleled. Right? So, always remember that, guys. So, key things that I want you to remember, key things that I want you to take note within your mental, right? Said this earlier in the video. Your internal reality is more real and more potent and more legitimate than your external reality, right? It all starts within the internal reality. Your internal reality is a reflection of your external reality, right? So I want to go over some passages within this book that I'm currently reading right now, right? So I'm reading this book called Ruled by Secrecy, right? The hidden history that connects the Trilateral Commission, the Freemasons, and the Great Pyramids by Jim Mars, right? So I want to show you some examples of how, you can't utilize an illusion within an illusion, right? This is a created matrix. This is a created world that we exist in. That's why we are so miserable. That's why we are so upset. That's why we are broke. That's why we are, spiritually broken, mentally broken, because we live in a system that doesn't benefit us, right? The elites, the secret societies, the government, whoever whoever these people are who have created this system, right? They do stuff behind the scenes. They work behind the scenes to benefit them. They make certain decisions to benefit them and not us. So it's important for us to establish that internal reality, right? To unleash that internal reality, having a healthy relationship with our soul and our spirit, right? Utilizing our internal reality to make changes within our external reality. Okay? So, let me start off by stating, so this book talks about this document that's called the Protocols of the Wise Men of Zion. Now, the Protocols of the Wise Men of Zion, many have speculated that, some people say it might be true, some people say it might be fabricated. But when I go over some of the things that's stated within these protocols, you might understand and you might realize that some of the things that they've been talking about in these protocols are some of the things that we are existing in and some of the things that we are experiencing within the world today. Okay? So if you want to do, more research on it, I suggest, reading the protocols on your own time or researching on Google on your own time. Okay? So it says that a prerequisite for grasping this background is understanding the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, also known as the protocols of the wise men of Zion, right? This is a list of procedures for world domination, okay? So the document purported that a clique of Jews and Freemasons would join forces to create a one world government, right? By means of liberalism, and socialism. Okay? So the protocol still chills readers with this prophetic description of methodology for tyranny by a few. So you always hear people say, the top 1%, the ruling class that rules over the majority of the people, right? Like the elites, the secret society members, the government, the banking system, right? So the small rule over the majority. Okay, that's what we're experiencing right now. 100 families ruling over the majority of the citizens, ruling over the majority of the people. Okay, its message fits quite well with the elitist outlooks of men like Cecil Rhodes and the Rothschilds. So, quoting, "We are the chosen. We are the only true men. Our minds give off the true power of the spirit," right? So people say that consciousness exists within the mind, right? When we raise the overall level of consciousness, we start to operate in the spirit, more so in the spirit and not of the flesh, okay? So the intelligence of the rest of the world is merely instinctive and animal. They can see with their physical eyes, but they cannot foresee. They cannot see within their mind. They don't have that mental vision, right? So we're blind. We can't see what's going on with our physical eyes, but we can, once we raise our overall level of consciousness, when we open that third eye, our universal eye, our mind's eye, we can see past the veil. We can see past the illusion, right? That's been pulled over our eyes to blind us from the truth. That blinds us from the truth. Okay? Their inventions are merely corporeal. Does it not follow that nature herself has predestined us to dominate the whole world? Stated the protocols. Okay? So it goes on to say, the protocols goes on to explain that the goal of world domination will be accomplished by controlling how the public thinks, by controlling what they hear, by creating new conflicts or restoring old orders, by spreading hunger, destitution, and plague, by seducing and distracting the youth. Okay? By all these methods, we shall so wear down the nation that they will be forced to offer us world domination, they proclaim. Okay? They provide a clear connection to Freemasonry and to the ancient mysteries, right? The ancient Egyptian mystery schools, the ancient Egyptian mystery system. This all ties down to the ancient Egyptian mysteries, right? All these secret societies stem from the ancient mysteries, the ancient Egyptian mystery schools, as well as an amazing roadmap for world conquest. Okay? So now I'm going to be going into some of the protocols. There are many protocols stated within this book, but I'm just going to be going over a few of these. All right? So it says, one of the protocols states that the minds of the masses must be diverted towards industry and trade. Thus, all nations will be swallowed up in the pursuit of gain and will not take note of their common foe. Okay? We shall create an intensified centralization of government. We must develop a super government by representing it as the protector and benefactor of all those who voluntarily submit. So when we rely on the government, right, when we think the government has our best interests, but in reality it doesn't. Okay, we shall soon begin to establish huge monopolies. The intensification of armaments, the increase of police forces, so that in all states of the world, besides ourselves, there will be only the masses of the proletariat, a few millionaires devoted to our interests, police, and soldiers. We shall put government power in the hands of persons whose past and reputations are such that between them and the people lies an abyss. Persons who, in case of disobedience to our instructions, must face criminal charges. We have fooled, bemused, and corrupted the youth of the masses by rearing them in principles and theories which are known to us to be false. Okay, we shall destroy among the masses the importance of the family and its educational value. So you see, especially within the black families, within the black community, the whole family dynamic and the whole family structure is broken, right? And so is the education system. We all know about the education system. Okay, so what is the part played by the press today? It serves selfish ends. It is often vapid, unjust, mendacious, and the majority of the public have not the slightest idea what ends the press really serves. You know, with the press, the news, the media, right? They don't tell us the whole truth. You know, everything within the media is scripted, right? These major corporations, these secret societies own majority of the mass media, so they show and they portray what they want us to hear. The media is controlled. Okay. We shall saddle and bridle it with a tight curb. Not a single announcement will reach the public without our control. Okay? The need for daily bread, it could be like clothes, food, shelter, all these different things. The need for daily bread forces the masses to keep silent and be our humble servants. In order that the masses themselves may not guess what they are about, we further distract them with amusements, games, pastimes, passions, people's palace, no TV at the time. Soon we shall begin through the process to propose competitions in art and sport of all kinds. So there are many, distractions that were created, distractions that were taking place that they have created within this world to keep us distracted, to keep us blinded, right? We get soaked up in, within our favorite TV shows, within Netflix, within sports teams, sports games. We become so distracted by these things that we become, alienated from what's really going on within the world. Okay? And this also plays a part in finances, right? Later protocols deal with finances. Protocol 20 called for general taxation, right? The lawful confiscation of all sums of every kind for the regulation of their circulation in the state. This will be followed by a progressive tax on property, and then finally a graduated income tax, a tax increasing in a percentage ratio to capital, as well as taxes on sales, receipt of money, inheritance, and property transfers. There was a discussion of the substitution of interest-bearing paper. Money since economic crisis had been produced by us by no other means than the withdrawal of money from circulation, right? So the protocols also discuss at great length loans, which states hang like a sword of Damocles over the heads of rulers who, instead of taking from their subjects by a temporary tax, come begging with outstretched palms to our bankers, right? So we, obtain a loan from a certain bank, or whether we're trying to buy some property or buy a house or whatever the case may be, and we take out a loan from the bank, right? And we have to end up, over the years, we have to end up paying the bank back that loan that we have taken from that bank plus interest, right? So it deals with finances as well. So after me reading all this, doesn't it sound like, some of the stuff that we are experiencing within our world today, right? Hasn't all these things come into fruition? Hasn't this stuff really, come to play within our own world, that we exist within our own world? So the protocols also demonstrate a linkage to the ancient mysteries, right? So within the world of knowledge, right? Knowledge can be used for good or for evil, right? Back in the ancient times, back in the ancient mystery system, the initiates that were within the system, that were within the Egyptian mystery schools, who turned into priests, right? These people were able to utilize this knowledge for good. They were able to utilize this knowledge to raise their consciousness, to raise their overall level of being, to raise themselves up to a higher level of civilization. This knowledge was used for the betterment of themselves and the whole universe, to keep the whole universe in balance, right? But once, the mystery schools start to die off, once these gods, these Anunnaki start to leave the planet, all this knowledge started to turn dark. All this knowledge started to turn into, started to become sinister, started to become evil, right? And these secret societies that exist within this world today, they utilize this knowledge for evil, for manipulation, to keep humanity stuck, to keep humanity in bondage, to keep humanity as slaves, right? Just like, with these wars that exist in the past, with World War I, World War II, the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, all of these wars were fabricated and created, right, for their own personal gain, for whether it be for the secret society members or the elites. These wars were created for, whether it be for wealth and power, to, whether it be for a hidden agenda, to steer mankind in a certain direction that they want. All these wars were fabricated. Even within World War II, the attack, the bombing of Pearl Harbor, right? That was fabricated. That was created. The United States actually knew about this, right? The president of the United States during the time knew about this bombing of the Pearl Harbor. So that gave the U.S. an excuse to participate in this war, right? So everything is scripted within this world, guys. We have to remember that this world does not benefit us. This world is not for us, right? That's why, in the Bible scriptures, it says that, why get so caught up in the world just to lose your own soul, right? When we get caught up in the world, we just go with the flow of the world, and, we don't want to, we're stuck in our ego, right? We're materialistic. All we care about is materialism and money and living in survival mode. It's not going to help better us become gods, become goddesses, okay? Just like with Adolf Hitler, right? Adolf Hitler, for example, he was very much into this occult knowledge. He was very much into this esoteric knowledge, right? He grew up studying this stuff as a kid. He grew up studying this knowledge, this esoteric knowledge. He grew up understanding, utilizing the spiritual forces, taking action and having whatever he wanted. But he was able to utilize this for the wrong reasons, right? He was able to create this cult, this Nazi cult. That's why he became so powerful, right? He was able to utilize the quantum field to manifest what he wanted, to manifest what he desired within this world. Okay, so we have to understand this, guy. This world doesn't benefit us. This world doesn't, we shouldn't be entrenched within this world. We shouldn't have a relationship with this world. That's why our internal reality is more real than the external reality. Okay. So one more thing I want to read from this book. So it says, it is evident that to whatever degree individuals connected by blood, titles, marriage, or membership in secret societies have manipulated and controlled the destinies of entire nations through the formation and funding of war. Okay? These people consider themselves above the morality and ethics of the average man. They obviously look to some higher purpose, whether that be sheer wealth and power, or perhaps some hidden agenda concerning mankind's origin, destiny, and spirituality. Okay? So that's why it is so important for us to internalize what exists within us all. It's important for us to understand the hidden powers and the capabilities that exist within us all, right? So it's all about establishing that faith, right? Faith is that driving force, and faith is one of those things that we have to acquire in order for us to manifest what we want, right? Our thoughts, backed by faith, backed by action, will take us to many different places. It'll take us to many different realms of existence, right? So we always have to remember that, right? Whatever thoughts exist within your mind, the dominant thoughts that exist within one's mind, right? If we repeat something over and over and over again, whether that be true or whether that be false, we'll believe that statement, or we'll believe those affirmations to be true, right? So if you say that you are going to get that job position, if you tell yourself that you are ugly, if you tell yourself that, your parents don't want you, your parents, the parents hated your parents hated that they had you. If you say that you are, this successful entrepreneur, if you say these things to yourself, if you say that you are a great husband, a great wife, a great father, a great mother, then that's true, right? If you say that you are not this thing or not this person, then you are right. If you say that you are this person or you're going to achieve this certain thing, then you are right as well, right? A person that says they can and a person that says they can't are both right. So if you repeat something, if you are, saying to yourself certain things, it's going to be programmed into your subconscious, right? That's why affirmations is a great way for you to reprogram the subconscious mind, right? But it's important for us to be in that right frequency, to be in that right vibration, because if our mind is filled with trauma and negative emotions and negative feelings, those affirmations are not going to work out in our favor, right? So after practicing affirmations and visualization and all these sorts of different things is able to help us reprogram our subconscious mind and shift us towards that reality that we want to exist in, right? So there you have it, guys. I know this is a lengthy video, but I want to break down, the metaphysics, the science, the spirituality when it comes to manifesting your desired reality. So hopefully, you have taken some notes, you have registered this in your mind, actually studied this, actually internalize this within your being. And, I wish you guys luck in manifesting whatever you want, manifesting the person you want to become, the goals, the dreams, the aspirations that you're trying to achieve and you're trying to acquire. Hopefully this video kind of helps you out in regards to that, and many blessings to you all. All right. So till next time, and always remember, all power resides from within, and always keep the faith because God in the universe is always working for you. Take care, guys, and God bless.